What was life like for you as a 14-year-old child? And to follow, what would you want life to be like for your own 14-year-old child? And I'm sure the second answer stirred many thoughts about positive things you would hope for your own children to have. Now imagine being only 14 years old and being put to death by electric chair by mandate of the United States government. That was the life for George Stinney Jr., who was sentenced to death in 1944 for the alleged murder of 2 girls in the state of South Carolina. His trial lasted less than 3 hours and reportedly bore no evidence and barely any witness testimonies. 70 years after his execution, he was exonerated. An innocent boy was put to death for allegations only because of a corrupt system that is run by the death penalty. So how can you trust a system that relies on capital punishment to deter crime if oftentimes the convicts like George Stinney Jr. could very well be innocent? There have been 1,465 executions in the United States since 1976, and if even 3% of those cases resemble any similarity to George Stinney's case, the system which supports capital punishment is corrupt. The death penalty is inhumane and should not be practiced. So today, I will discuss the racial disparity within the death penalty cases, the intended purpose of the prison system, the financial strain of the death penalty on the economy, and the opposing arguments. Being a black person in America can evidently serve as enough evidence to end up on death row, even today. According to the NAACP, black people make up 13% of the population, but they make up 42% of the death row and 35% of those executed. In the United States, there are 63 people on federal death row, and 37 are people of color. 27 of those individuals are black. And we're aware that black people are disproportionately represented within the prison system, especially death row inmates. And I think that can often be blamed because the prison systems were originally meant to rehabilitate, and now they simply punish. The get tough on crime approach that sees punishment as prison's main function has altered the original intended approach. The harsh approach does not allow room for those who may be mentally ill. In 2002, the Supreme Court opened Atkins versus Virginia, their first opinion categorically prohibiting the death penalty in relation to intellectually disabled offenders, to leave room for those who can plead insane and etc. Further, capital punishment directly violates and disregards the Eighth Amendment that bans cruel and unusual punishment. Between 1973 and 2016, those who were cruelly punished and denied their constitutional rights, 156 people who had been sentenced to death, were subsequently determined to be innocent. Innocent people are too often put to death. Since 1973, over 156 people have been released from death rows in 26 states because of innocence. Nationally, at least one person is exonerated for every 10 that are executed. How can we trust such a system that kills innocent people? The death penalty demands extensive resources from legal systems, prisons, and law enforcement. That often being finances, money that could go to things that do not directly violate human rights. Before Maryland abolished the death penalty, a detailed study showed that the average death penalty case cost $2 million more than a death-eligible case in which prosecutors decided not to pursue the death penalty. Another study in 2011 found that California pays $184 million a year to sustain capital punishment, or close to an accumulated $5 billion since the practice was reinstituted. Governor Newsom of California went as far as announcing a moratorium for capital punishment in his state. He stated that I cannot sign off on executing hundreds and hundreds of human beings knowing that among them will be innocent human beings, much like George Stinney Jr. Supporting the death penalty is a strong stance, and they often give many reasons, and it often means believing that it is a deterrent to crime, it is retribution for families, it is cheaper than housing a criminal, and using religion to back all of those reasons. And with that, I would say, a punishment can be an effective deterrent only if it is consistently and promptly employed. Capital punishment cannot be administered to meet these conditions. If, however, severe punishment can deter crime, then permanent imprisonment is severe enough to deter any rational person from committing a violent crime. The average death penalty case costs $2 million more than a death-eligible case in which prosecutors decided not to pursue the death penalty. Overall, the death penalty is cruel and an unusual punishment for criminals. It does not account for the mentally ill, the minorities of America, and the innocent lives of many. Too many people are put to death every day by a system that was built to rehabilitate and change rather than destroy and kill. Life is precious and it should be treated as such.